Do we have sound? Sound testing, test. All right, sound. Do we have video? We don't have video. Actually, could I teach you like this? You think I could just type a sentence and give you guys a little bit of lesson through here? Boom! I say boom a lot. Wow, it's really bright. I'm oversaturated, but that's because when I step back here, I'm not so bad anymore. This is a very impromptu Flowtricks welcome. It's the end of, it's like New Year's almost. And so tomorrow I'm going, geez, that's really bright. Ugh. Tomorrow I'm going out to do a show in a different town, so I thought it would be kind of cool to just do one more quick live stream, answer some questions. I might just go and play a little bit in the background. I really don't know like what I'm gonna do with this live stream yet. I just wanted to connect and answer questions if you guys had any, and then just kind of just do a little bit of training as well, or answer, like, showcase what you guys are working on. If you have some videos you want to share too, just go ahead and let me know. Just post it in the link and I'll try to find it and then post, and we can watch some videos together as well. So anyways, welcome. Hello Tice. Hello Crawl Bone Snap. I like that. Crawl Bone Snapper. It's something you don't want to do. This is why you use padded chucks. Anyways, I think I'm just going to start and just jam out a little bit. I'm gonna play around with a staff and a nunchuck to start with. Just get a little bit creative. I think a lot of times we get stuck doing the same techniques over and over again, so I'm gonna go a little bit slower. Hopefully like the slower motions will help demonstrate a little bit and you can follow along, or you can just kind of flow along with me too. Let's just get it started. First off, before I begin anything though, I just want to make sure video is clear, audio is clear. There's been so many times I've done these live streams and something's not working. So if you guys could let me know if everything's coming in loud and clear, that would be awesome. Let me see here. This is always funny because it's like I'm surfing the web to check on something, but all you see is my face just like scanning forward like, just a second here. Just want to make sure this is working here. I'm gonna put a test here. Make sure that this comes up. Boom. Cool. Okay, I'm gonna assume this works, but let me know if you don't hear anything. All right. So if you don't know, there's like three kinds of states that I usually train in. There's the flow state, the play state, and the train state, right? The train is where you optimize moves and make it like better. So like if you're working on a new move, that's the train state. If you're trying to make the move more clean, like if you miss a lot, that's the train state. And then there's also the play state, which is where you're kind of like a mad scientist and you try to figure out moves. The play state is you're gonna do a lot of drops, and that's totally cool actually. Dropping is part of the name of the game. And then the flow state is where you just jam out to music and you create presence. So you're trying to be like, that's more like performers or showcasing your art or just getting lost in yourself. It's kind of either it's like a zen for yourself, or it's kind of just like this aura that you create and broadcast out to others. So those are three different states. I think what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna start off with a little bit of play state. So that means I may have a little bit of drops. I'm not sure. I'm gonna probably play with a nunchuck and a staff simultaneously. I'm gonna try to mix and match some moves around to see what I can come up with. So I'm gonna turn the music up a little bit. I'm gonna start spinning, but if you have any questions, suggestions, or if you want to see something, just go ahead and let me know. I may be doing moves I've never done before. I may be looking foolish. That's part of the game. All right, I'm gonna turn up this music here. Let's just do it. I'll try not to overwhelm it here. That's it. So I have, these are silicone, and once it catches your clothes, it just snags on and gets stuck. So, yeah, that's kind of interesting. Come on, music. So, like, when I'm in the play state, I'm thinking, this bends, this is stiff. Like, what kind of patterns can I create that kind of mix them together. I don't always know what I'm doing, I'm just kind of feeling it out, and sometimes it looks a little sloppy. I mean, you can grab a staff with a nunchuck like this, and you can play around with thoughts of how you can move it. As long as it's trapped, you know, should work pretty good. And then once you get the trap to like, you can try to release it and figure out how can I release it from the staff so I can go back. And then how can I trap it again? Things like that. So that was kind of sloppy, right? But if I practice that 100 times, I may have something there. So that's kind of the idea of the play state, is you're just kind of coming up with different motions and movements where you're just like being a mad scientist and being like, oh yeah, that totally makes sense, you know? I'm gonna try something that'll probably fail. I'm gonna try to wheel with the staff. Well, it kind of gets stuck. So now I'm thinking it's going a little slow. Plus it looks a little weird. I'm gonna give up on that one. I'll give up on that one. How about that? Well, there you go. Again, right now I'm just in the play state. I'm just trying out some new ideas. I'm going to be dropping a lot. If you do have any questions, though, if you have any questions about what you'd like me to teach, just go ahead and send me a message. Otherwise, I'm just going to kind of play around a little bit. So this functions as like a hand, kind of like X sketch. Right? No, here we go. This time I'm going to use the staff, right? But I guess because we have a staff, we might be able to do different moves than we could with a hand, you know? And that's how I basically come up with ideas, is I try to just come up with moves that I've done before, like the X catch here. And then I'll use I'll just kind of break the technique apart and see if there's something else that I can do with it that's a little bit different with something else, you know? Let's see. So that's kind of cool. Whoosh here. This will actually allow us to clasp and reverse the staff. We might be able to do it more in the middle here. Here, clasp, grab, twist, you know. Then we have to unwind it or figure out how to pop it back before we can go back into our regular staff motions. Through. See how the thing catches it? From here we might be able to twist it. What else can we do? Hop. Catch. Whoa, almost hit my face. Let's see here. Give me a second here, I'm gonna answer a question here. I've got my first question, I'm gonna turn this down. It's a very simple one. How can I roll the nunchaku? And I mean, so if you go through my tutorial series, I have a lot of nunchuck hand rolls. There are so many ways, whether it's a finger roll, let me see, whether it's a finger roll or a wrist roll or a syncopated roll. The very first roll that you're gonna start with though is gonna be front to back hand roll. And I'll go over it very briefly, but you should definitely check out my beginner tutorial series. And what you're gonna wanna do, if you're wondering about how to roll it across a staff, the most important part is the side that you're holding the nunchuck with is kind of touching the very top. It's gonna make a connection before you let go. Because if you let go a little early, it's gonna fall off. So it needs to make a connection, and start being redirected by the staff. If once it hits the staff and it starts to redirect, it's gonna start rolling around the staff when you let go, but you have to wait until it makes that connection. So don't let go early or you'll drop it. Wait for it to make a connection and start to get rerouted, and then make your catch. And then the question is, once you make your catch, how do you time it to grab it so you're not grabbing it early and stopping it like this, but rather all the way through? And that's just going to be playing around with the timing and just doing it repetitiously, aiming for that later spot. So the earlier spot, if you catch it too early, you're going to grab the same side and it's going to lock. Now if you lock, again, that's what I was playing with here. what if we can play with some ideas with this lock? Maybe it's not a mistake after all if we just play with it. So you try it yourself and see. Again, if you make a mistake, don't be so quick to correct it, but instead look for a way to escape it. And in that way, if you ever make that mistake, it's actually no longer a mistake, because if you can flow with it, it's just a part of your flow now. Okay, Oliver says, oh, hi Ken, I'm French. What do you think about written tutorials which I could translate into French? No, I think that's awesome. The more people we can spread this around, the better. I really think, like, man, like I love video games. I'm a huge gamer, right? But I feel like this kind of stuff stays with you your whole life. Discipline and speed and stamina and strength. And you know, I like video games a lot too, but I also feel like this is something that like keeps you focused and it can keep you in shape, and there's just so many great things. So the more that we can spread the word about nunchucks or just spinning things in general, it doesn't have to be chucks, it could be staff, could be koi, all of that. So yeah, no, I think that'd be great. Send me a message, get in contact with me if you have any specific questions, or if you want to show me where you're at. I think that'd be fantastic. Let me see, the sweet spot connection. Yeah, everything has a sweet spot per se. I mean, on the staff, it's going to be the center where the balance is, right? And then anything that folds will have a sweet spot. The moment it makes a connection and starts to move, you have a very, very fine amount of time. And this is just like a video game. You have a very fine amount of time where you can let go, and the timing will take its place. Really, when you're really good at something, like with spinning, what's really happening is just you're building more sensitivity, so you can see those little nuances that other people can't. And when you can see that, then you can start doing things that people don't think you can do, and that's how you get into the flow of things and, you know, create awesome showcases. Oh, it's not always easy to understand your videos as you may speak rapidly. Yeah, that's true. I tend to be, I mean, my brain works very fast. It's kind of like a mad scientist. So if you want me to slow down, just let me know. Technically speaking, I mean, it just keeps going. My brain keeps firing, and that's how I keep coming up with ideas and stuff. How long have you been practicing nunchucks? 10 years. I've done chucks for 10 years just as freestyle, and then I did martial arts for 13 years prior to that. So I definitely had all of the basics, like this stuff, years ago, and then I also had like the hand roll. I thought I invented the hand roll at the time, but it was actually invented long before I did. But I've always been just kind of an explorer, and it's been about 10 years now, and it's been an incredible journey. I mean, I went from being a computer programmer to a YouTuber to a full-time performer, and it's a great life. I mean, when you do what you love to do, I don't know how else to describe it, you know. So, I mean, I feel like a lot of the humps that I had to go through, I got through in the martial arts phase of things, and I think martial arts is really good in terms of just posture and mobility and like all that kind of triangular motions, making your body have more presence. So I can't recommend martial arts enough, even if you do practice freestyle nunchucks or dance for that matter, or any kind of movement art. So you're not just moving your arms, but your whole body is in connection and in motion. It makes a huge difference. All right, so Tiger asked, I can send you a nunchaku video for me. I mean, if you want to send a video, that would be awesome. Yeah, I'd be more than happy to review it. So here's the thing, you guys. I love talking to everyone, and I get a lot of messages and stuff. So sometimes I'm a little bit bad with responding. It's just because I'm so busy. But whenever I have a chance, that's what I usually do, is I sit and watch lots of nunchuck videos and people's progress, and it makes me really happy to see like where we've come from 10 years ago to now. It's been an awesome movement for sure. So with that said, Eric Peterson, you need a magician's assistant. Dude, I need so many things. But a magician's assistant would be pretty cool. With that said, I think I'm gonna do a little bit more exploration. This time I'm gonna stay in the play state. This time, instead of a staff, I'm gonna use a poi. Now poi is just, here's the cool thing about a staff is a long stick, right? Just a big stick, it doesn't bend or anything like this. A nunchuck is somewhere in between where it's part staff, but it also has a foldable center. And then you have the exact opposite, which is there's no staff. It's just all foldable and rollable. And all of these have different techniques that you can do. So I'm gonna just be in the play state. I may be doing some techniques here that's also just in the flow state. I'm gonna kind of blend in between. And then we'll just kind of play with one nunchuck and one poi. So I'm gonna turn up the music. Again, while I'm flowing, if you have any questions at all, just go ahead and ask, and then I will get back to it in like a couple minutes. I'm gonna show you this really cool rope dart move. I love it. So I'm just gonna use this one for now and just kind of show you how it looks. Let's move this chair out of the way. All right. So it wraps behind here. Right? So that motion is just a really, I mean, you could just have a really long sock, but the motion is just getting your elbow to bend it, and the moment it hits, twist, twist. It's a figure 8 right here. Here, I'll get over here. So I'm gonna bend my neck. It's gonna come down towards my face, and then I'm gonna lean backwards. So it's like that. So, and then together. Whoosh. I'm gonna do the same thing on the other side. I'm gonna get my arm in the way. It's gonna fold it. It's gonna twist. Now the last part was my leg. Turn this down a little bit here. So what I'm doing here, folds under. And the moment it folds, the moment it hits here, I'm turning with it. So they're all, I would consider them not too difficult to move, so not hard. Doing them fast takes a little while, but it's really cool. And when you have a nunchuck, you can play around a little bit with those motions, like they're a little bit trickier because once you have two props, it's always harder, but you can kind of see where I'm going with that. Let's see. Okay, this is a good question. I'm gonna pause it for a second. All right, turn down the music. The question is, what do you think is better, nunchucks with string or nunchucks with the chain? And if you would have asked me this 5 years ago, I would have said an entirely different answer. Hold on. I'm all about nunchucks with a string. And the reason for that is because when nunchucks are on a swivel, there's two things that really get in the way. One is, first off, anytime you do like manipulations in the center, the chain will grind against you harder than a nunchuck string usually. Sometimes the edges of the chucks will dig into you, so that's not always the case. It depends on your chuck. But moves like these are easier with string, generally speaking, just because they're more foldable, whereas a chain bends at certain parts and it could get on your bone. Like when you have chain grinding against your bone, you can get some bruises, right? The thing I like about chain is it feels really fat and tight. So like with a chain, I do like how thick it feels, but at the same time, you do kind of get like some of sometimes you get the grinding against the bone and you'll end up with bruises. Not a huge deal, but the big one is going to be that swivels tend to pop off at no moment's thought, especially when you're doing like bounces and stuff. So like, when you're doing all these crazy bounces, there's a lot of force that the swivels are taking from nunchucks. So the problem is they can pop off. There's been so many times in the past where I've kicked a nunchuck clean in half right at the swivel or I've bounced it and all of a sudden the chuck just flies. Half the nunchuck is flying out. Now if I'm doing a performance, that could be disastrous because what if it flies and hits a kid in the head or something? You know, that'd be the end of my career. So in terms of safety, when strings start to get old, they'll start to frazzle at the edges and you can physically see it. You'll start to see when it needs to be replaced. So this is a big reason why I recommend string, mostly for safety reasons, because swivels can sometimes just pop for no reason. And so with string, you can kind of see this you can see it gradually lose, and usually string lasts longer too. All right. Let's see here. Next question is Venyak. He says, Mr. Hill, I doubt you remember, but in your last stream, I told you that I taught a nunchuck class at my martial arts school. Now I teach one class a month. I hope to be hired at my school soon. That is awesome. That's great. No, that's great. I think martial artists could learn a lot about freestyle nunchucks as long as they understand, you know. I think sometimes martial artists and our style kind of clash, and it's really silly. And I love it when a martial arts school is open to understand that like what we do is an art form and we're not necessarily fighting anyone. So sometimes, especially on YouTube, I'll get those messages like, what is this guy doing? And it's like, what do you think I'm doing? Like there's so many different reasons why someone would spin a nunchuck. I think that's great, and I think more martial arts schools should have that. I mean, I think in XMA competitions and martial arts competitions, there's a lot of techniques that are very, very basic and missing, I feel like, from a lot of like weapon demos. And I think learning this style or this kind of art, or just going off on your own and trying to figure out your own style is just so great. It's just such a great like way to actually be creative, like because creative weapons and martial arts schools sometimes I feel like isn't necessarily creative. It kind of follows the same pattern as other creative martial artists. You know what I mean? It's like it's creative, but they're replicating something, which is still pretty cool. You know, I mean, it's not for combat, but it's really interesting to watch creative weapons and think about like how many other like creative moves exist that you don't see in those creative weapon tournaments. So the more we can do that, I think that's great. I mean, for me, this is like, man, if I have a hard day, pick up the nunchucks, pick up staff, pick up a sword, pick up some poi, and just go for it until I feel better, you know? So for me, it's like, it's a release. It's my zen. All right, let's see here. So, yeah, no, that's awesome though, Venyak. What do I think of New York City lifting the ban on nunchucks? I think the ban on nunchucks is hilarious. I think it's ridiculous. I think that there's probably good reasons why the ban was placed in the first place, but their sights were way too small because there's so many more dangerous weapons out there. You know, it's like nunchucks are banned, but I can grab a sword. Like, you know, it's like I can walk around with a sword, but I can't walk around with 2 sticks on a string. Like, that'd be like if I had some chopsticks and I put a string in the middle, all of a sudden it's illegal. You know, it's so funny. Now, I'm really glad to see that progression happen. I hope that California follows, and I hope that like the world just lifts the ban off nunchucks, because it's absolutely the silliest thing in my opinion. I just think it's so silly. All right, so I'm going to do a little bit more playing. If you have more questions, though, holler and I'll just come back and I'll answer some more questions. Otherwise, I'm just going to do a little bit more playing and demonstrating. I hope you like that very simple long poi or even rope dart inspired motion from the last one. I think I'm going to work a little bit more. This time, I'm going to go back to nunchuck and poi because I wasn't finished with it. And then I will return back to those questions. So I showed you this move here, right? Oh, let me turn this on here. This is a cool move, like cool rope dart move where we're just kind of taking it under the armpit, right? You can also do it with the nunchuck here, so watch. You gotta watch out, like, as this is spinning around you, your chuck can just, bam, hit it, so. Hey, check this out. Alright, hold on. Now that was funny. I totally broke my poi. I'll check it out in a second. It just kind of broke in half. But no, I mean that's kind of what I was talking about. Like with regards to things breaking. Like if I was in a show and this flew off and hit someone in the head, you know, that would be more of a concern. So having safeguards, like the reason why you string nunchucks over chain is huge. Yeah, I'll get back to training in a second. I see some questions here, so that's pretty good because that's great timing. Let's see. Ben Azuz says, I have a question. The bottom of the fire nunchuck is made with what? I mean the last thing that gets fired up, because I want to make one for myself. Let me go grab one and show you. So, this is a fire nunchuck, and the ends light on fire, right? The number one goal, now I always have to give this disclaimer because not everyone knows this, but if you do fire alone, it is a bad idea. Always spin with a fire performance troop or someone that knows, and always have a safety. I mean, that's the most important thing. If you have a fire performance troop, they'll teach you all the safety you should hopefully have, but definitely never spin alone. Always have someone around with some sort of safety towel that's wet, or a duvetine, or something like a dry fire towel and a fire extinguisher, because fire dancing is one of my absolute favorite things, but I always want to be sure people do it responsibly, because you know I have 40,000 YouTube subscribers and there's always like 100 of them that are like, I wonder if I just put blades at the end and then I wrap socks around here and use gasoline, how well this will go. And I'm like, oh man, I just got to make sure I give those disclaimers so that way people understand like the danger of it. This is Kevlar, so this is Kevlar wrapping. So there's other kinds of wicking, but the most popular one is Kevlar. This will usually last, I would say like 100 burns. I mean, it lasts a long time. It really depends on how well you take care of it. I could give some basic fire dancing tips if you all are interested. You just let me know. But they're not necessarily, I mean, most of it's gonna be regarding making sure you don't burn yourself or start your face on fire. So, all right, let me see here. I'm gonna keep going here. Chris Johnson says, in the state of Arizona, nunchucks can get you sent to prison for a while, but guns are totally okay to walk around with. I know, right? Like, what does that even mean? Like, I know in California and New York, it's like sawed-off shotgun is equivalent to nunchucks, and it's like, it doesn't even make any sense. Like, I don't know. I guess if I was in a confrontation, I mean, I love chucks, but I'd rather have a sawed-off shotgun if my life was in danger, but for some reason, they're equal. Oh, it's just hilarious. Can you do tricks with the rod? I mean, I can. I don't have a rod on me. But the trick to anything, here, I'll show you. Shoot. You know, I'm trying to look for a rod. I just don't see one. But, okay, here's a little pull. The trick to spinning anything is to just observe what it is you're grabbing. So, for instance, this is a very short pull, right? But where is the center of balance? Because that's going to be what you're going to want to use. So I'm going to give you a quick little tutorial as to how you can pick up anything and spin it, right? Not everything is spinnable. For instance, if I pick this up, this is going to be a little bit harder to spin because it's really small, so the balancing is in a very awkward area, and it just basically covers my hand. So I may have to do more body motions. Generally speaking, the smaller a prop is, the more body motions sell the prop. But if you could pick up anything, even this, you can do staff motions. What you want to do is find out where the center of balance is. I'll give you another example. This giant broom, right? This giant broom can still be spun, but you have to find the center of balance first. So put out two fingers until you find that center. It's going to be right there. This is going to be where most of your work happens, is going to be right through here. So now when you start working with techniques, you're going to want to stay around where that center of balance is, because that is going to be where the least amount of effort can cause the most. It's just kind of like if I had a staff and there was a 10-pound weight here, if I held it at the end, it would be extremely heavy. But if I held it close to the center of balance, all of a sudden it's a lot lighter because I'm able to control the force. It's kind of the same thing with this. You're going to find the center and you're going to control the force. Now, if you have something that's extremely heavy, let's say this is 20 pounds, Then what you do is instead of using your arms and instead of extending it, you keep it close to your body and you use body motions to guide it through. So then all of a sudden, my hips and my shoulders are moving this prop. Now this is not very heavy, so that's not a great example, but there's a lot of basic general rules, just basic guidelines that you can follow, and then you can pretty much pick up almost anything you want and find a way to flow with it. Because if you know a little bit of poi, a little bit of chucks, a little bit of staff, you can pretty much use it on just about any prop that you find. Gotta be a little creative with it, of course. All right, I'm gonna keep going here. Chris Johnson says, if you do read this, I've been watching you for a few years and I really like the tutorials. I called them my anger management, but could you please send me a pair of LED chucks? Oh man, you know, a while ago I was doing chuck giveaways. I stopped doing that. It was a kind of a Patreon thing where I was giving it away to help people that donated just so I could keep Flowtricks going. But Patreon actually got mad at me and told me I can't do giveaways. So I stopped doing giveaways. So, I mean, maybe someday in the future if I can get more momentum going again with Flowtricks, it might be something I'd like to pursue again. But as of right now, I'm just kind of teaching and hoping to share the knowledge, and then all you guys can keep sharing it with others, and we can just keep this thing going so we can have millions of ninjas. Let's see here. All I have are homemade, and they do the job, but they only take you so far. You know, that's true. Like with homemade nunchucks, I'm gonna be honest. Like having custom chucks that are made for the balance of your style is amazing. But I gotta say, man, like most of my life, I've spent just going to like a local martial arts store and grabbing some cheap nunchucks. And I think that it's made me more versatile because every nunchuck has its own personality. So it's not always bad. It's not always bad. So having a different type of nunchuck, for instance, if this was 16 inches, right? The whole dynamic of spinning the chuck would change. Not a whole lot, but enough for you to realize some techniques are gonna be really hard and some are gonna be easy. Just like even if the rope was this long as opposed to this long, you all of a sudden lose this ability, but your ability to stall because there's less space becomes greater. So it's really interesting to think that every single nunchuck has its own character and it's for you to unlock. So if something's not working for you, you may be doing the wrong techniques with it because almost every nunchuck does have a sweet spot for certain techniques and then a hard spot for others. Is there a difference between nunchuck with 2 strings and 1 string? I mean, that's just the build. Having a 2 strings can help you if you're learning the wheel though, because you can stick your finger in between the strings. So it can be kind of a cheat method per se for some of the techniques, but really it's just how they build it. There's not a huge difference. Besides, you know, like when you do chain unwinders, you just have to be aware that your hand doesn't slide in between them. The judgment was federal under 2A. It's only a matter of time before the states comply. Yeah, I hope so. Like I said, let's get nunchucks. Let's just give it a chance. And man, people just need to understand what it's all about, you know? Like, who fights with nunchucks anymore? I want to know, like, who's walking around with nunchucks right now making all the lawmakers scared where they're like, oh my God, we got to keep this law in effect. It's like, sawed-off shotguns. No, man. Nunchucks. These things took out like hundreds of people last year. For the most part, I would assume most people are knocking themselves out without proper training. So, all right, I'm gonna get back to flowing here. I'm gonna grab another nunchuck. Okay, I got my other boy. Let's turn this one on since the last one broke. So this time they're going the same direction, right? That's one way to do it, but you can also go opposite direction and come up with really cool ideas. It's a little bit trickier, especially when you start doing tricks, trying to figure out how to keep the other side flowing, basically. There's just all kinds of crazy ideas, man. We'll go into some single chuck here. I've been working a lot with stalls to the side. Let me see. Like stalls that kind of, not too hard, but basically you're lifting up your leg. I just hit my light. Too busy staring at the screen. All right. Let's see here. What is the right weapon we could have for self-defense, considering the damage can be made to the criminal, and the heavier one that we take with us wherever we go? The right weapon for self-defense is a good question. Now this is just me, but I would say the right weapon for self-defense is the one that you can bring with you everywhere you go. So it's got to be small. The reason for that is because, like, even if you have a nunchuck, are you going to carry it with you everywhere you go? So if we're talking about self-defense, maybe something that could even fit on a keychain, something that's surprising, something that comes out quickly, ends a fight fast. To me, that's going to be my big recommendation. I can't tell you exactly what that could be because there's a lot of things that it could be, but I think in a confrontation you either want to scare them to the point where they don't want to mess with you, or you want to get in that hit so you can run, you know? So, and in that way, I mean, I can't really make a recommendation for what it would be, but I mean, everything that I learned is all about surprise attacks. So I would have something very small, inconspicuous, and then I would just, boom, hit it and get the job done and get out as quick as possible. To me, I think that's gonna be the smartest self-defense. Not sticking around and not playing with punches. In my opinion, I feel like if you punch someone and you guys are exchanging punches, it's more of a sport than like actual self-defense. Not saying that punches are not good for self-defense, I just mean like there are other moves that are more debilitating and gets the job done a little bit quicker. For instance, if you punch a guy in the jaw, but he's, you know, he has a strong jaw, I mean, then it's going to be like, if he's trained harder than you, then your odds of winning are always like going to be lower. But if you do cheap, dirty tricks and you just do what needs to be done, there's some things you can't work out, like the eyes or the throat, things that are a little bit harder to work out than if you just like been hit, you know, like people can be conditioned to be hit. So in my opinion, I mean, I don't really talk about fighting a whole lot online, but in my opinion, it's really the cheap, dirty tricks and being really fast and efficient with those. That's going to be your best move. And then get out of there. Don't hang around and don't play around. So, there you go with that. How do you do wrist rolls so smooth? So, I mean, I've been doing wrist rolls for a long, long time, but it's really about the release. Do them really slowly. When you're doing wrist rolls, start off doing them very slowly, because eventually it's a feeling thing. Kind of like, you know how you walk now, and when you're a baby, how you wobbled a lot when you were walking, but now you don't even wobble at all. Like, it's a nice smooth motion, right? It's going to be the same thing with wrist rolls. What you're going to want to do is you're going to want to do your wrist rolls, and then you're going to do it just over and over. Like a good, I got to turn this down, hold on. I don't know about you guys, but sometimes when there's something playing in the background and I'm talking, so I'm talking and all of a sudden I hear this music in the background, I'm like, yeah, good song. Oh wait, what was I talking about? So to get moved smoothly, if you don't want to drill it when you're watching TV or when you're watching a cartoon or anything like that, anime, you know, because anime is really good, go ahead and just keep practicing that wrist roll over and over. Do it mechanically, because it's just like walking. You don't think about walking anymore, right? And you just do it, and it's a natural thing. And you can run if you want, and you can walk if you want. When you get to that point with nunchucks, you'll be able to do it smoothly as well. I just realized I have so many questions. Give me a second here. You're gonna watch me stare for a second. Let me see. I just realized that some people may be asking questions on a group, and I totally didn't even see that. So give me just 1 minute while I double check and make sure. Perfect, okay. Let's see here. Have you ever been in a fight where you used nunchucks? No, I haven't. I do have some really sweet nunchucks that would be amazing in a fight, but I've never actually had to use it, and thankfully so, because with the, you know, with how fearful everyone is of chucks anyways, I feel like, I don't know. I mean, just because I'm really good with chucks. I think the better you are at something, the less people want to, like if you're pretty good at spinning the nunchucks, people aren't going to want to, you know, fight with you more, or even if you just have them out. I don't know. It's just yeah, I've never really been in too many fights, period, for that matter. I've done a lot of sparring matches, and I've definitely done plenty of that. Plenty of training in martial arts where I got whooped up pretty good and vice versa. But in the actual confrontations, I haven't had the need because I'm just kind of a nice guy. I don't know. I guess I've never had to need it. But if I did, like I said before, my thing would be get the job done, be very efficient, very quick, and then leave and just be done with it. Like don't play. Like if your life is in danger and you're doing self-defense, do what you need to do to end it as fast as you can so you can get out of there and not be in danger. That's really it. And that's why I say, like, a lot of times, I feel like a lot of times martial arts, there's this sport and then there's the actual self-defense, and a lot of times it gets blurred. So people are learning the sports type stuff, and it's totally cool because it still could work, but in terms of efficiency, in terms of just if you're down to the milliseconds where every single moment matters, you're going to want to do the thing that just finishes it quickly. I mean, that's just my opinion about it. Again, though, I haven't had to need to use it, but I'm assuming if I did, it would be a situation like that where it would just be very efficient. It would get done. Hopefully I would win. You know, you can't assume it, but I would throw everything I could into making sure that one move would finish it off quickly. All right. So anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed that. We talked a little bit about fighting. We talked a little bit about creativity and flow. And this light is blinding me. So I hope you guys enjoyed this live stream. It was a really fun time. So I'll probably try to do more in 2019. But you guys, hey, Happy New Year. Hope it's awesome. Be well. And yeah, talk to y'all soon.